Hey folks, welcome to this week's video. Not so many tech updates this week. We do continue to push laptops out and support families through our website. We will be adding some content to the tech support page, a couple of videos to help families navigate the support process with the city and to highlight some of the important things that they can do through our website to really help themselves during the closure. Also, we're going to be adding a function on the website that will allow parents and students to look up their advisor and get your email address so they can email you. We'll also be using that to provide some more information about your role as an advisee during closure, or rather your role as an advisor during closure, and what the purpose of that program is. So that will be up on the website. And those are really just the main updates for this week. So let's talk about the content for this week's video. This week we're going to focus on a couple quick things. First, I'm going to show you how to accept and set up your Guardian reports and how to filter those emails when they come in so that you don't have to search your whole inbox for them. And then a couple short things content-wise in Google Classroom. I'm going to show you how to set up a quiz so that it collects email addresses and tell you which students submitted which response, and also what the difference is between turning in an assignment and submitting a response on a form, as there were some questions about that. The second thing is how to create a post and then schedule it, and then also how to then go and reuse and schedule that post in other classes so that you can kind of set up your content well ahead of time and it releases for you when you want it to be released to students. Lastly, we're going to spend a chunk of time today looking at how to convert a worksheet from a standard Microsoft Word format into a more usable format in Google Docs. Now, the outcome of that is that when you attach a Google Docs to an assignment in Google Classroom, when it's in the Google Docs format, it's far more usable by students. We've had some students run into issues with editing Microsoft documents in Google Classroom. It doesn't seem to work the way it would work when you were, or if you were to edit a Word format document in your Google Drive. So while you could open a .docx file in Google Drive and edit it, it doesn't seem to have that same functionality for students in Google Classroom. It's not really a major thing, and the steps to fix that are pretty quick and simple. So I'm going to show you how to do those things. Now, I might add some content to the end of this video. There were some things I tried to squeeze in last week that really didn't fit, but it really just depends on how much space we fill up with the stuff we have to cover this week. And if I can put a few more things in to help you out, I will. Lastly, I'll say if there's things that you're struggling to do or that you're trying to figure out how to do best in Google Classroom, please email me. You guys continue to be my best resource for what teachers need to know or what you guys need help or support with when it comes to implementing Google Classroom. And in fact, all of the things that we're going over today are the direct result of questions that people have asked me during the course of this week. So let's take a look, let's get started, and I will see you on the back side. Hey folks, just going to show you how to accept your Guardian email summaries for your students and how to set them up. I'm going to show you a couple of things too that are part of that practice. I'm also going to show you how to filter the emails when they come to you, because you'll likely be getting them in bulk one, say like Friday or Saturday. So what I've created here is I just sent myself a request for my fake student, or an invite to become the guardian for my fake student. So you'll get it in an email that says it's something like this with the student's name at the end. And you'll get, you just have to scroll down and click the accept button. And then you should get a notification, something like this. You click accept again. And then it's going to send you to a setting to a page to put some settings in. Now you could get them daily. I would suggest not getting them daily because that's just a bunch of emails. Really, weekly is the best format. It does have that as default, so you shouldn't have to change things. Now we are GMT -5, that is Eastern time. There is not any difference, but you could come into here and change that to Eastern Time, which is more accurate for our time zone. Um, and that's pretty much that. I'll try that again. Okay, so you might be wondering how we might be able to filter all the messages that come in for your advisees from Google Classroom, specifically for their Guardian summaries. Now, a couple things to note. If they don't have any activity, Google will not send a Guardian summary. So if you don't get a summary report for a student, it's because they have not done anything in Google Classroom in that week. They haven't submitted anything or commented, etc. So what I'm going to show you to do now is how to create a rule rather, in Outlook that will separate all your Google Classroom summaries into one folder. That will just make it easier. The other thing that I will say is that if you do not get a report for a student that you advise, that's because they haven't had any activity on Google Classroom during that time period. Now, they may have logged in, but if they didn't submit anything or post any comments on anything, then Google Classroom will not have logged them as having activity, and they wouldn't send you a report. So if you don't get some on a weekly basis, that's because the student didn't have any activity. All right, so let's look at how to create that rule. Now, I would suggest you do this in Outlook Online. It's just easier, really, to use Outlook Online, and it doesn't fill up your hard drive with a whole bunch of files that it has to download when you use the desktop app. So all you need to do is click on the gear in the menu at the top, and what you want to search for is Rule, and you want to go Inbox Rules. And rules are just basically a set of conditions that you can pass to Outlook. Outlook then scans incoming messages. Any that meet those conditions will then be sorted however you want them. Let's just create a new rule. You're going to name it, so we're going to say Google Classroom Guardian Reports. Okay, so when you get to this step, what you can do is we're just going to use this header text, weekly summary 4. We're not going to use the student's name, but we're going to see this in every single report. So it should be good enough to help filter our emails. Now you could use subject. You would use very much a similar strategy for the subject. I don't have an example email to do that with right now, so I can't do that based on the subject. So I'm going to use the message body. Now these are the example reports that Google has given us, so this is likely that this language is going to be at the header of every report. So that's what I'm going to use. We're going to use weekly summary 4. Great. Once you click off, it's going to set it as one single condition, meaning that it's going to search the message body of any email that you receive for this chain of text in this order. And if it has this, it's going to do this action. Right? Pretty straightforward. So the next thing we want to do is select action. And what we want to do is, under organize, we want to move to. We just want to move it to a separate folder. So let's see. Now I've got some folders already created in here, but you probably want to, what I would suggest you do rather is just go to new folder and type in Guardian Summaries, and type in Guardian Summaries and hit enter, and it'll create that folder for you. Now this selection, stop processing more rules, just prevents it from capturing or from this email being filtered by other rules that you might have. So generally I'd say that's a good thing to make sure that it's checked. It's probably going to do that by default though. So once you have all of these things in here, just click Save. Now you can see it's spinning. It's creating that rule, but it's also creating that folder. And then you have this rule here ready to go. So as you start to receive those summary emails, what you should see is numbers start to appear next to this Guardian Summaries folder. Now right now I haven't received any yet, and if you do this after they've been sent to you, they might not filter ones that have already been sent, but it should capture any ones that come in the future. And that's just a really good way to separate and filter those summaries. Also keep in mind, I said it before, but I'll just remind you that if a student doesn't have any activity, it's not going to generate and send you a report. So if you don't get a report, that's because they haven't submitted anything or commented in any stuff in Google Classroom. Hey folks, showing you another thing. We're going to look at how to schedule and reuse a post today. So let's just create a generic post, and we're going to schedule this. We're just going to say example. I'm not going to fill out anything else. If this is an assignment, you wanted to fill out any of the other stuff, you can go ahead and do that. Then you hit the drop down, you can schedule it. So we're going to schedule this one for tomorrow at 8 a.m. We'll click schedule. Now once that's scheduled, I can go into any other class and you reuse that post, right? So any post that you've created can be reused in any other class, even if it's scheduled. So I'm going to come down, reuse post. First, you have to select what class to pull the post from. So right now it's just pulling all my classes. Okay, so it's pulled all my classes. You can see it even has my archived classes, some of my older classes. Okay, so I created that in my Google Model Classroom class. So just click on the class name. It's going to show you all the posts sorted by most recent. And we can see this is the example post I just created. It is scheduled, but I can click on it and click reuse. And it's just going to pull all the settings and the whole setup for that assignment into this post. And then I can also schedule it in this class. Bingo bango. Pretty easy. Okay, but that just solves the issue of having to come up at a certain time and post it. What you can't do is post and schedule into multiple classes at once. It doesn't let you do that. So what you need to do is you can create it in one, schedule it in that one, then just click through the rest of your classes. You can go to your classwork page, click create, reuse post, and find that inside the class you created it in, the first class you created it in. Alright folks, so I had some questions about turn-in versus not turn-in. Basically, when a student turns in an assignment, it just signifies to you that they're finished with their side of the assignment. In cases where you've shared a document with them or you've made a copy for each student for them to edit, it's also going to change ownership over to you so that you can edit it and that they cannot until you have reviewed it and sent it back to them. Right, so one particular question was asked about what to do for a quiz assignment. Now, quiz assignments will create Google Forms. Now, you can also do your own Google form. You can create a Google form just as part of an assignment if you wanted to track data as an formative assessment. I mean, really, that's like how we would be using these blank quizzes or these quizzes too, is in a similar fashion. But the problem that this person was running into is that students would submit on the form and they're having a couple issues with that. One, it wouldn't automatically mark the assignment as submitted in Google Classroom, and they weren't able to track in a consistent way which responses on the form went with which student. So I'm going to show you how to resolve that. First, turn-in will never resolve automatically when you're using a Google form. So you need to, if you want it to be flagged as turned in, you just put it in the instructions and remind students to turn in after they've gone and submitted on the form. Now there's a way that you can help yourself with this. If you go in to edit that form, it's not in the default settings, but meaning it's not going to do it by default. You actually have to go and set this. You go into the edit of the form, create whatever questions you want, click on the gear, and you want to click collect email addresses. This is going to automatically save the email address of each student or each person that responds to this form. Once you do that, every time someone submits a response, it's also going to capture email addresses, and we should see this in the column headers as the spreadsheet loads up. Yep, it's going to do that automatically, and that's going to be an easy way to identify which student submitted which response. And then also the other thing is that you can limit to one response. So if you want students to take just one shot at a quiz that you built through a form, you can just select limit to one response. And it's going to do it based on their email address. Um, and that's pretty much that. Now you have a quiz that students can answer once that will also collect email addresses. Now the other thing that you want to do is put in the instructions that you want them to submit their responses on the form and return to the page to turn in. And really, again, that's just to signify to you that they have completed their entry on the form. Now you can see that, but it also, like you could see that in the form, but it also shows up in your assignment view, and I'll show you that in a second. So if I come here to Google Form, or to my model classroom that I built this assignment in, this is a student that I use just to model things. You can look at the sample quiz. We can come over to the assignment page, and you can mark as done. As soon as he marks as done, we will see that over here. All right, so back on my user, we are going to sample quiz, view assignment, and it's going to show up as turned in. Right? So that's really all it is. It's not going to do it automatically. I didn't even, as a student, go and submit on that form. So it's really just a flag to tell you that they have turned the assignment in. Hey folks, showing you how to take something from Microsoft Word, from a worksheet that you've got prepared that you use maybe in the classroom and would print out and hand to students, and convert it to a more usable format for use in Google Classroom. Now, one thing that you'll find, or that you may have found in your past couple weeks of using Google Classroom, is that many times when you upload something just from Word, it doesn't seem to want to edit on the student side in a usable way. So I'm going to show you how to upload it, convert it first, and then add it to an assignment in a way that allows students to type into their version and submit it to you, which really is the best way that we want to present content to students. So let's take a look at that. This is just a basic chemical equations worksheet that I downloaded from the internet. So you can see, students may, if we were in person, would be using this to maybe write in something in the boxes here. Well, they could still use it in a similar fashion. So I'm not going to change the format, but I'm going to show you just how to upload and convert this and get it into an assignment. So let's start with that. Before you go and create the assignment, you want to upload anything that you want to use in the assignment into your drive. Now, maybe you have a bunch of stuff that you want to do, so we could even create a folder. If you created a folder, maybe you call it assignment templates, something like that, really just for your purpose to be able to find that folder again. It might be useful to name a folder like that. Now, in order to upload and convert, all you have to do is click New, go to File, Upload, and then find the file that you're trying to upload. So that's the sheet that I showed you earlier. Now, it comes in a docx format. When you're in Drive, you're able to open and edit in a docx format. So I can come over here and open with Google Docs. And then we can see a couple of things right away that got a little funky when it started opening it with Google Docs. I think primarily that is the borders. So if you ever get or the margins, if you ever get something like this, where it seems like pushed off to the side, just go File, Page Setup, and adjust your borders, or margins rather, and it should fix the problem. There we go. All right, so you can see, if we look here, and if we look on the original file, this one had thinner margins. So what we can see here is that this one had thinner margins, and when we open that in Google Docs, it goes to the default margins, whatever you have set for your account. But you can go into File and Page Setup and adjust those margins to see. Now, the other trick to maximize its use is to actually save a copy of this as a Google Doc. So you would go File, Save as Google Docs, and it's just going to convert that over to a Google Docs format. That makes that file more usable in Google Classroom for students. The way that you can tell this new file is Google Docs format is that it doesn't have this docx tag here. So let me compare that, show that next to the original one. So the original one has the docx tag, meaning that's the format that it's in. Now you can edit it in your drive and still preserve that format, but it seems that students are having problems doing the same on their versions of the files that you share with them on Google Classroom. So we want to convert those over to Google Docs. Again, you do that on the original upload on the docx file, or this will also work for the .doc formats for older versions of Word. You just go File, Save as Google Docs, and it will convert it into a new file that's in Google Doc format. Now you didn't lose anything when you did this. You know, all the formatting is the same. Now let's create an assignment based off this. So if we wanted to share this with students, we go Create Assignment. You know, just put in whatever it is here. Let's say chemical equations, whatever the instructions are, and you now can just add it from your Google Drive. Now, since this is something that I recently created, we'll see it here. But you want to pay attention to these icons. Okay, the blue W means that it's in a Word document format, and that's not going to work so well with Google Classroom. So you want to use the Google Docs format. You can find it in your recents that way. You'll also notice that the docx extension is on the original. We don't want to use the original. We want to use the converted file. You can also find it in My Drive. So if you go into My Drive and whatever that folder is that you created, you'll see it there too. That's just another way to get at it. You know, if you upload and convert a bunch of files and then do other work, you won't necessarily see it in your recent view in that first panel. So either way, you just want to select the Google Doc version of the worksheet that you want to share. And you'll also notice that when you put your mouse over the title, it tells you what version it is. The first one is Word, and the second one in this list is a Google Doc format. So we're going to attach the Google Doc. The other important piece to do is to make sure that it's set to make a copy for each student. Again, that just copies, or what it does is it creates a template file for this in your Google Classroom folder, and then creates a copy of that template for each individual student. One other thing I'd say is when you're using this, what you want to make sure that you do is that the original file is exactly how you want it before you start creating the assignment. Once you've created the assignment, it copies the template file to a different spot, so going back and changing the original will not change the version that students see. Okay, and it's an important thing that some people didn't know, so make sure that's in there. I'm going to make a copy for each student. I'm not going to worry about the other settings just because I want to show you this. So they're going to click Assign, and then we'll switch over to the student view so you can see what it looks like. So I'm back on the student, classwork, chemical equations. Here's Steve's version. And we can see it preserved all the formatting. There's nothing wrong with it. You know, it's not funky or anything, and you can type right in and submit it. Okay, so just something for you to check out. I would suggest converting any Word document that you have to a Google Doc. Again, you want to do that by going through Google Drive, so uploading it, going through Google Drive, or going to Google Drive, uploading it, open with Google Docs, right, and then File, Save as Google Docs to create the Google Doc version of that original file that you have in a Word-based format. Then just creating the assignment based off of the new Google Docs version of that file. That will give you the best, most usable version of that file that will work well with Google Classroom. So before I move to the closing, I want to cover some applications that work with Google Classroom. There's a number of really powerful and interesting applications out there that work on all different varieties of content. And in many cases, these apps can work to solve some of the problems that you have with, or that you may run into with developing content to fit the digital platform. So I'm going to scroll through and highlight some of those as we go through. I'm just going to scroll down this list, and then I will attach this link in the description of the video. Please do come back to this page to check out other applications that you might use or integrate with your classroom. Okay, so I would start with Actively Learn. This is actually one that I've used. In Actively Learn, you can upload texts that you've selected and curated, and put in questions and like little formative assessments as you go through. So it's a good way to do that and also be able to measure how students are performing and what they're doing. This kind of replaces having to create like Google Docs on your own with questions, and it integrates really well with Google Classroom. Another app that I'd point folks towards checking out is Edpuzzle. Edpuzzle is super powerful because you can take a video either uploaded from your computer or linked to from YouTube and input questions into it. So students can watch a video and answer questions based on what they've heard in the video right there live, and it's going to give you data on what students got right and what they were able to answer. This is a way to you could even use this to deliver a lesson if you like created your own video and uploaded it and wanted to kind of check students' understanding on different parts of the lesson. You can do that live in Edpuzzle. It's pretty easy. I'd suggest you check it out. Another app that I'd point people to, really for math folks too, is Khan Academy. It's super powerful. It allows you to select and assign content. You can actually integrate it fully with your Google Classroom. It will pull your class over, and you'll be able to curate and select content for students and assign it to them and be able to track their progress through it. It's super, super powerful. It's one of the most powerful tools for math online that I am aware of, and it integrates really well with Google Classroom. So another one that I would point out that's very similar to Actively Learn is Newsela. The only main difference between Newsela and Actively Learn is that Newsela curates their own content and actually goes through the process of leveling it by Lexile. So if you have students with different reading levels, different skill levels when it comes to reading and understanding, you can go and assign them different versions of the article based on their Lexile. It does integrate with Google Classroom, and it will pull your students over. Obviously the only suggestion is that when you're assigning them different levels, give them something that's just above what their skill level is, so that you can push their growth. Another app that I would also highlight is Quizlet. Quizlet is a great and powerful review tool. It also has some fun games. It might be more useful to use when class is in session, because some of those games are group games, they're interactive games that you can run during a class. So, for folks that have run like Kahoots, Quizlet has a couple games that are actually a bit higher level than a Kahoot that allow you to even do things by group. But it's also just a good resource for students to review content and material from your course. So I would suggest you check that out and thumb through it and see if there's ways that you might want to use it. Basically, it's a digital flashcard platform at the absolute basic level. But because it's digital, it's a lot easier to create those content sets for students. And you can even use images, for our art folks and other folks that might be looking at, what are some good ways that you could help students review things and make things a little bit fun too. So I'd also say overall, there's a lot of apps in here. Just scrolling through it quickly, there's a lot of things that Google really suggests at a high level to use with the Classroom platform. When you come to this page, you can even select and refine by category to see what out there exists. And then even beyond this, there's a bunch of secondary applications that will allow students to log in using their Google accounts, so they won't have to go and create an extra account for that platform. My suggestion would be to really research the different tools that are out there, particularly if there's any that pique your interest or you think that might be useful or powerful for your classroom, and just take a little bit of time to explore how you might implement them
and how they might either improve or introduce some efficiency to your practice with digital learning. And many of these tools do that. So, just getting yourself familiar, it might actually end up saving you time than having to create a whole bunch of new content on your own. Just, be aware of what's out there and, give it a try.